Hello, this is Targor. This is a Twitch stream that was not edited, so it's going to look like a Twitch stream. Welcome to my vision of World of Warcraft Classic Plus. The design direction of my vision Classic Plus is substantially different from that of retail WoW Circuit Shadowlands and a private service, Vanilla Plus and Turtle WoW. This is partially because this aims to fix Vanilla WoW's many problems first, flesh out problems that's already there second, and add new content third. By the way, I'm not adding any new classes. I don't plan to, at least. This is part of a playlist of videos. Check the studio subscription for a link to the playlist. The document displays my vision of WoW Classic Plus, and the document version number is 1.5.15. All versions of the document are based upon patch 1.12.2 of World of Warcraft. If you just want to know about the general design direction of my vision of WoW Classic Plus before you otherwise look into this, then watch the introduction video in this playlist, or review the document yourself and look at the links to major features. The link to the document is my channel's About page. That I do not have a team of people or however working with me to make an actual private server out of this. This is all pure design thus far, and it ain't done yet. This is not the video that covers all the classes in depth. This just covers the class changes that apply to classes in general, the changes that apply to more than one class. So anyway, a warning. I've yet to balance PvP around rated BGs, which is a new PvP ranking system that we are replacing the old one. That was very life-ruining, among other terrible things. Anyways, I intend for every real talent tree of every class, so not bullshit like 17, 17, 17 specs, when deeply invested into, to be... Talent tree, I thought it said spec. For every talent tree of every class and deeply invested into, among certain other specs, to each be useful in at least one rated battleground that is Warsong Gulch, Arathi Basin, or Alterac Valley. So the agenda for general class changes. For this section into specific class sections that I'll get to in another video, in more videos, I generally want to put a permanent end to the melee cleave and spell cleave metagames, since it's partially covered in other sections of the document. By the way, Ravager was severely nerfed, and given a hard target cap of 6 targets per tick as well. I want to make tanks not be able to maintain aggro, pseudo-aggro, by just rotating taunts and doing nothing else, other than dealing damage, for the sake of making the enemy die faster, in this case. Anyway, I want to make specializing in talent tree be more significant than before. I want to remove certain kinds of unintentional melee weaving from the game. If you were a high-end hunter player in Vanilla Classic, you'll know exactly what that means. Same if you were a high-end shaman player on some private servers before Vanilla Classic came out. I want to increase the retention rate of new players. I want to do the things mentioned in these sections for each individual class, though some of those are covered here. Now to these general class changes. These are not exactly kind of class changes, but all class changes offer a few dialogue options that offer you very bare bones advice for being that class. The rough draft of the actual text for all 35 items of advice can be found at this link. I'm not going to show you the link in this video, I just don't feel like it. Anyway, yeah, if you want to see, it's not a very big link, you can just type it in your address bar. Anyway, all movement impairing, taunting, and otherwise crowd controlling and damaging spells and effects that are available to players, whether they be from class-specific spells, consumable items, chance on hit effects, or enchants, or buffs, that were able to hit an infinite number of targets within its radius at once, will be changed to only be able to hit up to 6 targets per tick or spell cast, depending on the spell, a la War Stomp, Whirlwind, and Thunderclap. Spells such as Blizzard will be able to hit up to 6 targets per tick, targets chosen at random of each tick, while spells such as Fire Dome will only affect up to 6 targets per spell cast, again chosen at random. All spells that are excluded from exchange are in total Consecrate, all ranks, Holy Nova, all ranks, and all Hunter Traps, all ranks. Do note that spells that neither deal damage nor perform crowd control, such as Demoralize and Shout, will be unaffected by this change. As such, all area of effect abilities that are new, that I'm adding to the game, will similarly have a targeted cap of 6 targets, unless otherwise stated. This is a huge part of getting rid of the spell cleave metagame for good, as well as preventing mages from AoE farming so effectively that they permanently ruin the economy for everyone but them. All taunts will have diminishing returns on a typical diminishing return timer, not only in such a manner that your taunts cause diminishing returns for your later taunts, but also in such a manner that your other people's taunts cause diminishing Cost diminishing returns for your later times, and vice versa. Vice versa. Growl, the pet move, Torment, and Suffering will not count as taunts. This change is serious that you cannot keep up a taunt rotation for very long, meaning that you can't just completely ignore all threat mechanics on it. For a raid buff, impunity for your tanks can just rotate the taunts on it. By the way, it nerfs all taunts to act as pre-1.11 taunts. Pre-1.10 taunts. This means that taunts will act as Mocking Blow and Challenging Shout and Challenging Roar. Which means that taunts will not generate actual threat. They'll just make the enemy target you until it wears off, after which they'll go back to the guy at the top of their threat table. Spells that are below level 20 ranks will no spells of ranks below level 20 will no longer have their spell damage / ceiling coefficients be lowered according to how much lower level they are than level 20 due to the below change. By the way, before I go over this, do know that all items in the game are being above item level 65 are being nerfed to item level 65. And all raids are being squished down to tier 1, and Zolgrub and EQ20 are becoming 40-mans. All 40-man raids are being squished to tier 1, excuse me. Furthermore, all endgame 5-man dungeons are being buffed to 10-mans, and lower and upper Blackrock Star are becoming 20-mans. Which all have basically the same kind of loot as the endgame 5-man dungeons had. Except all of it's going to be item level 63 stuff, every single item. In both the 20-mans and 10-mans. In its Classic Plus. And then Zolgrub and AQ20 and all the other 4-mans are going to drop exclusively epic items aside from their legendaries. By the way, I'm adding more legendaries. The legendaries will be better than epic, and the PvP reward system is going to have better items. But also worse items. I had to do something there, and I turned off the microphone for a bit. Anyway, yeah, the PvP reward system is being changed to all the rewards from the highest ranks and are item level 65 epics. Aside from the rank 15 reward, which is an item level 71 epic weapon of your choice to emulate legendary items. Anyway, moving on. The actual change that makes downranking not be so bad anymore if ranks below level 20 are no longer capped. That makes... I'll say this over again. Spells ranks below level 20 will no longer have spell damage / healing coefficients be lowered according to how much lower level they are than 20 due to the below change. All spells will no longer be able to have each damage or healing value of theirs be increased by any more than triple by spell damage or double by healing. As such, because most spells deal a variable amount of base damage or have a variable amount of base healing, those spells will have a soft spell damage / healing cap, at which point the spell's minimum base damage values are getting the most that it can out of spell damage / healing, and a hard spell damage / healing cap, at which point the spell's maximum base values, are also hold on. And a hard spell damage / healing cap, at which point the spell's maximum base values are also getting the most that it can out of spell damage / healing. These limitations apply after spell damage / healing coefficients, and not before them. I do note that the talents that increases the effectiveness of the spell by a percentage will also increase its scaling and spell damage / healing cap by those percentages. Design note: spell damage caps and spell damage cooldowns and healing cooldowns exist as this flask's supreme power. That and certain spells, such as Mind Flame Starfire, have a low amount of base damage and a relatively high spell damage coefficient compared to how much base damage you deal. Compared to their base damage. An example of the spell damage / healing cap in action. Starfire, rank 7, deals 496 to 584 base arcane damage. By the way, the AQ books are being moved to what used to be 5-man dungeons and Ubers. It has a rank 7 in Starfire has a spell damage coefficient of 100%, at least off the top of my head. The number that the base damage rolls, that's a 496 to 584 component of damage, will determine for that particular spellcast the maximum amount of plus spell damage that the particular spellcast of Starfire rank 7 may benefit from. If the Starfire rolls 496 base damage, then that particular spellcast will not benefit from any more than plus 992 spell damage. This is the soft plus spell damage cap for Starfire rank 7. If it rolls 518 base damage, for example, then a particular spellcast will not benefit from any more than plus 1, and that's a 36 spell damage. If it rolls 531 base damage, then a particular spellcast will not benefit from any more than 162 spell damage, and so on and so on until if Starfire rolls 584 base damage, then a particular spellcast will not benefit from any more than 1168 spell damage. Note that base damage in this case means before talents. This is the hard spell damage cap for Starfire, 1168. Because the spell damage cap for this spell is particularly low, despite item levels being nerfed to 65 at the most, you might want to be careful about stacking spell damage gear with Philosophies Brain Power, Talisman of Ephemeral Power, and Perfection cooldowns such as powerful dense stone statues. More on those in a different video. If possible, try using spell crit cooldown instead of your spell damage cooldowns. For example, swap out your Talisman of Ephemeral Power for a spell crit cooldown trinket. Similarly, if you are a Shadow Priest and are limited by Mind Flay's spell damage cap, then you can use a dot/shot effect in this cooldown instead of every spell damage cooldowns. In this game, in lieu of making dots be able to crit or tick faster to spell haste like in Wrath of the Lich King, I decided that feels too much like Wrath, so instead I made it stat to just make your dots and hots tick harder outright via increasing it by a percentage via a stat. Anyway, spell damage shot shielding cap example 2. Renew, rank 10, always heals for 970 base healing over 15 seconds. It has a healing coefficient, if I recall correctly, of 3/7 of 100% over the spell's duration. That is, spread across the spell's duration. Since reduced base healing is not variable, its healing cap will not be variable either. As such, its hard plus healing cap will also be its soft plus healing cap. So, therefore, Renew rank 10's healing cap will be plus 2,264. As such, Renew rank 10 will heal for exactly the same amount if you have plus 2,264 healing from gear, as if you had plus 128,715,118,951 healing from gear due to the plus healing cap. For example. Now, moving on. In order to prevent people from respecking back and forth during a single raid in order to cheese the raid, respecking will have a cooldown of 24 hours. This will also slightly increase the significance of specialization, and a quality of life change should go along with it, to prevent you from accidentally hitting the wrong button during respecs. When you have any number of unspent talent points, you must confirm the spending of them after allocating them before they shall take effect. Before confirming your spending, you may take those unspent talent points in and out of talents that have not already been maxed out with confirmed talent points as you please. This change will make it be harder to accidentally mess up your spec. So next up, in order to increase the retention rate of new players, all players will be given a respecking discount based on how many less than 51 talent points they spent in addition to that 60% discount. I haven't actually figured out how to put the formula on paper yet, but I have figured out some examples for it as of, actually a few years ago, if I recall correctly. I haven't figured out how to replicate the formula since. So, players with 1 talent point spent will have a discount of 98.6%. Players with 11 talent points will have a discount of 94.7%. Players with 21 points spent, will have a discount of between 85 to 88%. Players with 31 points spent will have a discount of 67.8%. Players with 41 talent, by the way, 85 to 88% is it's going to be exactly one number in that range. I don't know which number it is. I haven't calculated it out yet. Anyways, players with 41 talent points will have a discount of 41.2%, and players with 50 talent points spent will have a discount of 5.1%, while players with all talent points spent will receive no discounts. In order to slightly increase the retention rate of new players, especially rogues, Marketing Wild, rank 1, Track Beasts, Arcane Intellect, rank 1, Devotion Aura, rank 1, Power of Fortitude, rank 1, Stealth, rank 1, Rockfire Weapon, rank 1, Immolate, rank 1, and Battle Shout, rank 1 will be known by their respective classes at character creation, and as such, they'll no longer be offered by any class trainer. It won't increase the retention rate of players by much, but it'll have the greatest effects, for what it's worth, on rogues. I don't want new players to just make a rogue and then figure out that it can't stealth right away. That might be a deal breaker for some people. Or maybe not. Maybe because they spent money on it. Anyway. Just in case. Anyways, spells that, and people might not realize they can just hit the class trainer for like 10 levels. I mean, I've heard of something like that happening before. Anyway, spells and abilities such as Rip and Eviscerate that Synonym scale of your attack power will reflect the increase in your total damage out from your attack power and its tooltips And spells with scale of bonus spell damage shielding will similarly reflect the relevant damage shielding increases in their tooltips so that new players can better judge which abilities to use and when. All instant non-projectile spells, excluding aim shot, will reset your melee range swing times when you finish casting it in such a manner that when the spell is fired from your character, the swing times are reset. This change will prevent, for example, a shaman from standing in melee range of an opponent and using both a lightning ball, formerly named lightning bolt, and a melee swing every 2 seconds at the exact same time. This change was made because I don't want to bounce the game around stuff like melee elemental shamans, and because I would like to keep tryhardery on a leash. All talents that increase the damage or healing done by its spell environment potential also, where they haven't done so before, multiplicatively increase the attack power, spell damage, or healing coefficient of the spell by that same percentage. This is being done because I have been bouncing the classes around the assumption that this is the case. In order to remove a non-necessary annoyance from the game, all spells that are learned from talents and are not rank quantity spell will cost as much to learn as normal spells do. But if you respec and then retain a talent later, you'll automatically relearn the highest ranked spell that you've ever had. Self-casted invulnerability effects, such as Divine Shield, and Light of Illume and Feign Death will no longer be usable during mind control, unless the controller decides to do so, because it would not make sense for you to retain enough control over your free will to do so if you're enacting the controller's volition while mind controlled, which would end in mind control early if he did. Final Struggle is an exception to this, the human racial, more on that in the previous video that I just did. By the way, Final Struggle is only usable at low health. So it's quite less, so it's a lot fucking worse than Last Man Standing, believe me. You can only use it at low health, they can just kill you instead of crowd controlling you. Anyway, so yeah, you can use Final Struggle to break a mind control early. Moving on. If you do class changes in the specific class change sections, use, in their associated formulae, a variable that is referred to as, quotation mark, completely normalized damage, quotation mark. This does not apply to any warrior or rogue abilities, so don't worry about that. Anyways, this refers to either melee or range damage, depending upon the context. This is a formula for, quotation mark, completely normalized damage, quotation mark. First, you take minimum base weapon damage and add to maximum base weapon damage. Then you divide the sum of that by 2. Then you take the dividend and divide it by base weapon speed. And then you take that dividend and add 1/14 of attack power to that. And then you take all the stuff, the sum of the two numbers, and multiply it by X to get completely normalized weapon damage. Flat damage bonuses / penalties and damage multipliers come afterwards. Minimum base weapon damage is the minimum weapon damage that is specified by the relevant weapon's tooltip. This never refers to a one-handed weapon that is being held in the offhand. So, for example, if you mouse over your one-handed melee weapon and it says 132 minimum, and it says 132 to 196 damage, the minimum base weapon damage in this case means 132, and maximum base weapon damage in this case means, did I say 196? But yeah, 196. Base weapon speed means weapon speed that is specified in the weapon's tooltip, meaning that the value in the formula is not affected by hastes or slows. This never refers to a one-handed weapon that is being held in the offhand, by the way. It refers to a one-handed weapon in your main hand. Or your two-handed weapon. Or your ranged weapon if it's a ranged ability. The value of X, this X, is provided with the associated changes and will sometimes not be displayed in the formula of the associated changes X, but instead as a number such as 2.3 or 3.2. This means that the attack damage is completely normalized around X weapon speed. This means that damage dealt by a completely normalized attack is not affected in the slightest by your weapon speed, but rather by the quotation mark damage per second quotation mark stat on your weapon's tooltip and your attack power, which is based upon your weapon speed and base weapon speed and base damage. Anyways, it's also influenced by your damage multipliers and flat damage modifiers. The default values used for the variable of X are as follows: 2.8 for ranged weapons, 2.4 for one-handed melee weapons, including daggers. By the way, there are no completely normalized dagger-only attacks. However, if you're a hunter, then for one-handed melee weapons, it shall be 2.3 instead. And 3.3 for two-handed weapons, or if you're a hunter, 3.2 for two-handed weapons. So, for example, if you're not a hunter and you hit an opponent with a completely normalized attack with a 4.0 speed weapon damage, 300 400 base weapon damage, and you have 1000 attack power, then a completely normalized attack will deal 524.5 average damage before being subjected to damage multiply. Excuse me, will deal 524.5 damage before being subjected to the damage multiplier. Forget the average part. 5 damage modifiers, such as Death Witch or Stone Skin Totem, and before being subjected to damage multipliers, flat damage modifiers, before being subject to the damage multipliers and flat damage modifiers, such as Death Witch or Stone Skin Totem, and before being subject to rounding. Ugh, I really plugged that. Only several abilities in total will deal completely normalized weapon damage. So don't worry about this ruining the game. I have no intention of giving any of these to Warrior or Rogues, and I'd hate for them to have any at all. Until it's given to Shamans, Hunters, and Paladins. And not all of the Hunter's abilities, just, not all of the applicable Hunter abilities, if I recall correctly. Anyway, Flasks will require you to be under the effects of spells that require 40 level 60 players in the same group to cast and maintain the effects of, such that if anybody leaves the group, then these spells will end instantly for everybody, but not the Flasks themselves, so you can just recast a spell type to replace someone and benefit from your already used Flask slots again. These spells will require level 60 to learn, and the names and drop locations of these spell teaching items shall be as such, and have a drop rate of about 1%. The Grimoire of Ritual of Demonic Strength, the 120, which corresponds to the new 120 Strength Flask, will drop from Alzin and Wild Shaper. The Grimoire of Ritual of Supreme Power will drop from Baron Rivendare. The Tome of the Incantation of Enigmatic Insight, which corresponding to the Flask of Enigmatic Insight, which used to be the Flask of Distilled Wisdom, will drop from Iraji Summoner. The Tome of the Incantation of Chromatic Resistance will drop from Darkmaster Gandling. These are mage spells, by the way. The Tome of the Hymn of Insurmountable Vitality shall drop from Prince Sorteldrin. That's in the new Flask. I forgot. Indomitable Resilience and Inflict Resolve for the new Flask. Insurmountable Vitality is the 120 standard Flask as replacing Flask of the Titans. Hymn of Inflict Resolve, the tome of that, will drop for the final boss of Deathholm, which will not be Dark Contra Theor, by the way. He is retconned out of existence because he contradicts the lore of Warcraft 3, circa 2001. The Libra of the Boon of Light Reflexes shall drop from Balzandar, which, by the way, can be looted by the Horde as well. That's going to correspond to the new 120 Agility Flask with Lightning Reflexes. The Libra of the Boom of Indomitable Resilience shall drop from Emperor Dagon Thorson, again can be looted by the Horde as well. Flask of Indomitable Resilience will, off the top of my head, reduce your chance to receive a critical strike. While Flask of Unflinching Resolve will dispel a fear on you it's actually pretty complicated. Every however long you get a buff that dispels that makes you negate the next fear used against you. Not dispel, makes you negate the next fear used against you. Every minute or so, you get a buff that negates the next fear used against you. Yes, that Flask does. It's a PvP Flask, like the Flask of Indomitable Resilience. By the way, raid bots are going to hit so hard, as well 40-man raid bots, that tanks are going to get randomly one-shotted if they don't use a shield. So don't try using that crit reduction Flask over a hit point Flask. You actually fucking need it in order to not get one-shotted with a shield. The Tablet of the Rite of Lightning Reflexes will drop from Overlord Wyrmflak, which can also be looted by Alliance players. The Tablet of the Rite of Indomitable Resilience will be dropped by General Drakasaf, again can be looted by Alliance players as well. So if you loot a Libra as the Horde, you can auction it at the neutral auction house. Same if you loot a Tablet as the Alliance. The recipe for Black Lotus Oil, which is not actually used to cast the spells, will drop from King Gordok. By the way, you're going to need Black Lotus Oil instead of actual Black Lotuses to craft Flasks, and Black Lotuses will be changed to drop off of Plague Bloom, Ice Cap, and Mountain Silver Sage nodes at random, low chance of course. Instead of Black Lotus nodes, Black Lotus nodes will be removed from the game. Anyway, moving on. Black Lotus Oil is not actually used to cast the spells, but it is needed to craft the flasks themselves. This is listed here for my reference. These changes are being made to Flasks to prevent tryhards from ruining the game for casuals by badgering them into flasking for mere dungeons and 10/20-man raids. Never underestimate how hyperbolically tryhard the WoW community can get. These are the same people that DDoS each other in Cataclysm and Myth Pandaria. Among other, and these are the same people that kickbotted all the fucking time in, like, Myths Arena and shit like that. Anyway, moving on. Or was it Warlords, or was it Warlords of Draenor Arena? Anyway, never ever underestimate how hyperbolically tryhard a WoW community can get, especially after people in Wrath of Lich King Classic were demanding that people be in fucking Sunwell gear to do a level 70 Definitive dungeon. That's my alarm to go to sleep after this. Especially after demanding that people in Sunwell gear be in Sunwell gear to do a level 72 dungeon on normal mode. Yes, that actually fucking happened. And it was not a little bit of stuff. It was actually quite a bit of stuff. Their reasoning for it was that they wanted to find somebody to level up faster. But anyway, it was harder to get dungeon groups. For a bad reason. This here is why each spec of each class will be brought to 40-man raids. Those of some specs might not reflect this yet, but they all will in the future, unless I change my mind first. Arms Warriors will apply Moral Strike, which in addition to having healing taken, makes enemies get critted 2% plus 2% more often. This is an additive increase, not a multiplicative increase. Bring 1 Arms Warrior. Two-handed Fury Warriors apply the improved Slam debuff. Bring 1. Off the top of my head, I don't remember the improved Slam debuff. Check. Improved Slam. Slam. The P button is next to the L button. Increasing melee damage taken by 1% for 15 seconds. Stacking of Hemorrhage. And Gift of Harvest. Dual Wield Fury Warrior has the highest personal melee damage, or at least they will when I'm done with them. Bring as many as you want. Fury / Prot Warrior. Useless now that the Prot Warriors generate more threat with a shield than Fury / Prot Warriors do without one, or at least they will when I'm done with them. Not to mention that all warriors will get one-shotter from full health and full defensive slot buffs and full best in slot forever gear by a crushing blow if they do not wield a shield. Do not waste a spot on these guys who think that they're playing Vanilla Classic. Prot Warriors. Tanks required for some rain counters. Bring 2. Holy Paladins. Healer. Bring enough to get everyone all the Paladin blessings. Prot Paladin. Tank required for some rain encounters and has a greater blessing of Sanctuary. Bring 1. Red Paladins. Apply Vindication, which notably reduces the enemy's armor and dodge chance. By the way, change how NPC stats work. Bring 1. Beast Mastery Hunter. Pet applies Torn Armor, reducing armor by up to 150 points. Bring 1. Also, Beast Mastery Hunters deal more personal damage as well. Marksmanship Hunters. Hold on, I need water. Oh, that's better. Marksmanship Hunter. Brings True Shot Aura and extra Trank Shots. Bring 3. I plan to change the range mechanics to possibly increase the cooldown of Trank Shot such that 3 will be acquired. Survival Hunter. Bring 1. Hey, wait a second. Why didn't it say bring 3? Bring 1. Bring 1. And extra Trank Shot. Survival Hunter. Applies Exposed Weakness. Bring 1. Elemental Shaman. Brings improved Tranquil Air Totem, which requires constantly dealing damage to keep it improved. Bring as many as you want. You know, I'm probably going to change Marksmanship 100. I'm probably going to change the range mechanics so that 4 will be acquired. Okay, so bring 2 Marksmanship Hunters. Yeah, Elemental Shaman. Brings improved Tranquil Air Totem, which requires constantly dealing damage to keep it improved. If a given totem that becomes improved will stop being improved if you stop dealing damage. So yeah, bring as many as you want. Damage Enhancement Shamans. Brings improved weapon tones, which also requires constantly dealing damage to keep it improved. Bring as many as you want. Tank Enhanced Shaman. Yes, I'm making Tank Shamans. Tank required for some rain encounters, but cannot get improved weapon tones without being gimped. Defensively gimped. Bring 1. Ugh. Wrestle Shamans. Great raid healers. Also provide totems. Bring as many as you want. Assassination Non-Dagger Rogue. Provides a -5 defense skill debuff. Yes, I know what that means. Yes, and by the way, I got rid of Edge Master's Handguard. Turned Edge Master's Handguard to the plate gauntlet to do something completely different. So bring 1 Assassination Non-Dagger Rogue. Assassination Dagger Rogues provide a -30 strength / agility debuff, which notably reduces NPC dodge chance and armor. Bring 1. This acts as Vindication, by the way. Combat non-dagger rogue. Applies a plus 1% melee damage taking debuffs, attacking if all are such debuffs, and it can deal a pretty good amount of damage. Bring 1. Combat dagger rogue. Applies a minus 60 armor debuff, as well as dealing a pretty good amount of damage. Bring 1. Subtlety rogue. Applies hemorrhage, which increases melee damage taken by 1% with infinite charges, instead of increasing melee damage taken by X. Bring 1. They also were buffed to deal a lot more damage. Personal damage, that is. Balance Druid applies Moonkin Moonfire, whose debuff, in addition to dealing damage, if you are in Moonkin form at the time of applying the debuff, increases the damage taken from all critical spells by 10%. From all spell crits by 10%. Bring 1. Cat Druid applies an improved version of Break, whose debuff, in addition to dealing damage, increases the damage taken from all physical crits by 10%, from all weapon crits by 10%. Bring 1. Bear Druid, a tank that is required, that is mandatory for some raid encounters, just like tank enhancement chants are mandatory for some raid encounters. How are they going to be mandatory? Boss mechanics, that's how. Resto Druid heals people and brings 1 Innervate and Rebirth per Resto Druid. I might have to give raid leaders more reasons to invite one over a Holy Priest, however. Arcane Fire Mage, that is Deep Arcane plus off-spec into fire. Grants everyone plus 25 spell damage / healing most of the time. Bring 1. A note that fire resistance should not be an issue into relevant raids anymore, except against proper fire elementals due to various talent changes and a new elixir called Major Elixir of Searing Flames. Arcane Frost Mage grants everyone plus 2% spell crit most of the time. Bring 1. Fire Mage applies a complicated debuff from critical mass that replaces improved Scorch's old debuff and requires 2 Fire Mages to keep up. The debuff, at most, shall increase all fire damage taken by 9%, increase the damage dealt by all damage over time effects by 6%, and reduce fire resistance of the enemy by 60. Bring 2, and note that fire resistance should not be an issue in relevant raids anymore, like I said. Frost Mages apply Winter Chill, which at most will grant attackers plus 10% frost spell crit, and increase all magical damage dealt to the foe by 5%. Disc Priest has Power Infusion, which helps your Paladin or Shaman tank to get burst threat. Bring at least 1. Did I say Prot Paladin anywhere? Oh yeah, I said Prot Paladin. Take away for them raid encounters, etc. Oh yeah, so Disc Priest has Power Infusion, which helps your Paladin or Shaman tank to get burst threat. Bring at least 1, but do note that Power Infusion can no longer affect the same player more than once per 3 minutes. Holy Priest, the best general purpose healer, at least in theory. Bring as many as you want. Holy slash disc damage priest that deals holy damage. The only true hybrid. They can seamlessly switch from damage to healing and back without having to take the time to cancel Shadow Form or Moonkin Form to perform the switch. Nor another such spell. Bring 1 if you want, but you don't gotta bring any. Shadow Priest applies Shadow Weaving, which will require constantly deal damage to keep it up, unlike in Vanilla Classic. It is very important for your Affliction Warlock and your Demo Warlocks. Bring 1. So, unlike Vanilla Classic, where you can just apply 5 rank 1 Shadow Word Pains at the start, and then stick a max rank Shadow Word Pain on the boss, and apply another one every 24 seconds, or was it 18 seconds? Yeah, actually 24 seconds. You can just, well, you can't just do that anymore to keep Shadow Weaving up. You're going to have to constantly deal damage now. Now, Shadow Weaving has a chance to apply upon dealing shadow damage, as opposed to always applying upon casting a shadow spell. Or even having a chance to apply upon casting a shadow spell. It's chance on spell damage, not chance on spell cast in this Classic Plus. Anyway, Afflock applies a minus 5% spell damage dealt debuff. Bring 1 to make it easier on the healers. I might have to make a debuff to an improved raid offense instead of raid defense to make people actually bring Afflocks, however. Demo Locks have the highest personal range damage, or at least they will on none of them. Bring at least 1 for a curse. Destro Locks applies a debuff that increases the spell crit of all attackers by 2%. Bring 1. And note that fire resistance should not be an issue in irrelevant raids anymore, as I have already stated. Major Elixirs of Searing Flames and a critical mass debuff exists. And that's all I got for general class changes. Next up will be Hunter's video, and I'll record that later. Thanks for watching. I might record it tomorrow in text.